There's little life left in these Norfolk pines, which have been on a slow and steady decline to the chopping block.
Around 18 months ago we identified some dying off branches. We sent some soil samples away to a soil lab, got some results back and recommendations. We applied those recommendations but didn't see a lot of change.
Council sought the advice of an expert arborist.
We contacted the Botanical Gardens. They came up, took some samples and identified a range of soil-borne pathogens and also some pathogens within the plants themselves.
Some which could spread to other trees.
A significant one is this one called Botrytis, which is a spore-type fungi. It'll enter plants through pores within the plant itself, any pruning cuts, damage to plants, that type of thing. Healthy plants will compartmentalise it or section it off, but plants that come under stress for whatever reason will fall victim to it.
Council maintains there was nothing it could have done to save the trees, and this weekend 30 of the pines will be sent to the chipper.
We'll go through a design phase, so we'll look at redoing the whole median, and we're looking at putting back Cook Island pines, which are at the eastern end of Hannell Street.
That will take another 12 months. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
We're having a lot of success in reducing recidivism, which is a huge problem. But we can only help 2 fellows a month because we've got a 2-bedroom house and we have them for 4 weeks each.
It hasn't been the most inviting place of late, the art gallery hidden behind giant fences, and patronage has been down.
It's very difficult when the street is closed for people to be able to access, particularly for the elderly and the disabled, but we hope all of that will change soon.
Something that should help that along is the latest exhibition, Australian Modern Masterpieces. On display are 40 iconic artworks on loan from the Art Gallery of New South Wales, such as William Dobell's Archibald Prize-winning portrait of the late Margaret Olley, as well as more than 30 of Newcastle's own collection.
They are all here. It is like walking through an art history book. You name it, Drysdale, Boyd, Dobell, Fred Williams, they're all here.
Directors are hoping the exhibition, which will run over the summer holidays, will give art lovers from regional New South Wales an incentive to visit Newcastle.
Also to encourage people from out of town to come here and stay overnight in our hotels, our fabulous restaurants and all of that as part of the whole deal in terms of visiting a major show.
Tonight's opening will also give the Art Gallery an opportunity to try to convince the Premier to contribute to the $21 million redevelopment plan, work on which is expected to start next year. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
That's history now. Last week against Adelaide, and derbies are always a different proposition, and Newcastle are in good form. They've had a good victory against Melbourne victory, so it's going to be a tough game.
By his own admission, it's been a tough year for Isaac Morgan. Since winning the national under-17 Ironman title, he suffered glandular fever, then battled through the HSC. Having just returned from schoolies, this weekend's Interbranch Championships at Redhead will definitely test his credentials.
There's going to be a bit of a wave on at the carnival, so a bit of local knowledge I reckon will help me out a bit.
The 18-year-old will feature in up to 6 events, kick-starting a long summer of competition.
Head down into the training now, no more studying, no more books, just fully focused on what's ahead in surf lifesaving.
Morgan's clubmate Isaac Costello will be aiming to keep the national under-17 Ironman crown at Redhead when he competes at the Aussie titles in March. Before then, he'll test himself against his New South Wales rivals. Both Isaacs admit Costello's move from Swansea Belmont to Redhead has helped them lift to a new level.
We've got a little bit of a rivalry happening, which is it's a lot better to train with. You're always pushing each other, giving each other a bit of cheek here and there.
He's so experienced in that area, and he's just, well, I've raced him for so many years, and he's such a good competitor, and just he's pretty much the best at the moment.
The 16-year-old was ecstatic with his third-place finish at the recent Goldie Ironman Classic, and his form is already attracting interest from cashed-up Queensland clubs. For now, he's focused on representing the Hunter on the national stage.
There's a lot of junior talent coming through, and as you can see, Isaac last year won the Australian title, and I think if we stay here and train the way we're going, it looks pretty positive.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
I think that what we are doing is perpetuating the sentiments of decades of community respect for Les Darcy.
It's a journey reserved only for the brave.
Last year, my brother and I became the first blind guys to ride across Australia, which was 4,000 kilometres. And several months after that, many were saying, hey, when are you going to get back on the bike and do another big ride and another fundraiser? And I thought, well, why don't I ride down to Carroll's by candlelight in Melbourne?
A simple idea, but by no means an easy feat, especially not when the starting post is Brisbane and the finishing line is 1,800 kilometres to the south.
It has been tough, you know, when you're fighting those headwinds, when the weather and the elements and Mother Nature's telling you, hey, you're not going to do this ride, and yet you just have to keep going.
But Lauren's a fighter. Keeping him going is a goal to raise $10,000 for Vision Australia.
There are a number of blind kids, of course, that rely so much on the services that Vision Australia offer.
Along with the dream of making a difference.
It's always nice to raise the funds, but I think more than anything it's great to just get out there and do something positive for the community and see so many other lives inspired, not just blind people, but anyone. You know, you can achieve anything if you never ever give up. Believe in your dream and keep trying and never give up.
Lauren is due to arrive in Melbourne next week. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
This is what residents on Montgomery Street face day and night. But it's not the stream of passenger and freight trains which have them reeling. It's the coal trains from local collieries which lay in wait on the line.
The coal trains sit here for 3 hours at times because they cannot go south from the collieries in the south.
They are meant to idle, according to RailCorp, for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. And the residents could obviously handle that. However, they're actually idling for in excess of 1 hour, 2 hours.
Upgrades to the line more than a year ago only exacerbated the problem.
The extra noise since September 2010. Yeah, and we just get a clang, 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 clang because of the broken section of track.
And it's just unbearable to listen to three engines vibrating for 3 hours. It's just unbearable.
And it's not just the noise getting up the nose of residents.
And the diesel smoke contains 2 chemicals that are carcinogenic, and we're a bit worried about that.
Wallsend MP Sonia Hornery is now pressuring RailCorp to keep the trains moving or install buffer walls.
I'm certainly happy to lobby the government on behalf of the residents about a buffer. It makes sense to me.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
The best surf athletes in the state came to represent their regions, and despite a few stumbles, it was mostly smooth sailing. In the Open Iron Woman, there were no clear-cut favourites as the girls hit the water. Alicia Miller from Northern Beaches emerged first, with Amy Northern from the Central Coast in fifth. The ski leg was a different story. While some were going backwards, Northern made ground before her main rivals crashed out. Amy's dismount wasn't clinical, but her performance on the board was. In the end, her win came down to timing.
Well, I knew there was a few big sets coming behind me because I heard one of the girls squeal, so I kind of just sat there and waited for them to pass and chased it from behind, and by the time the next one came, I was in a little bit, so I just got the whitewash.
2 Isaacs carried Hunter hopes in the Ironman events, but they were both overshadowed. Swansea Belmont's Sam Earp was also flying the flag for the locals in the under-19s, but it was Jack Moyes from the Central Coast who moved gradually through the field. The two battled to the line, with Moyes finishing just in front. Earp was happy with his race tactics coming off a shoulder injury.
Just have a good swim and hopefully hold it in the ski. The board on here was all right and the swim was good, but ski's my weak leg.
Isaac Costello was an early favourite in the under-17s, but he was forced to settle for second.
The man was found just after midday by 2 passers-by who noticed his yellow boat adrift.
They believed they knew who the dinghy belonged to, so took it back to, or tried to locate the owner. And I found a 63-year-old male floating face down in the water.
I went and had a look out the window, and next thing I saw cop car came tearing through down the yard there, and then ambulance followed straight after.
The men pulled him ashore, but efforts to revive the victim weren't successful. It's believed the man, who is a local resident, got into trouble sometime between 11 and 12 while out on the water. Investigations are continuing, but the incident is not being treated as suspicious.
At this stage, it appears that it's more likely that it's been a medical condition that he suffered as opposed to a boating accident.
Kath Landers, NBN News. When a child is facing a life-threatening illness, there is no greater time of need for their parents. Newcastle's Ronald McDonald House has supported more than 12,000 families during these tough times.
It's been medically proven the children recover much faster if mum and dad are nearby.
The Cowan family from rural New South Wales found out how valuable the centre is after daughter Grace was diagnosed with a brain tumour.
We got the call to come back to the doctors within half an hour of a CAT scan, and they said, they're waiting for you at John Hunter now, you need to go.
The family spent 6 weeks at Ronald McDonald House.
I honestly don't think we would have been able to possibly even handle it the way we did had it not have been for the support from Ronald McDonald House, purely for the fact that it keeps families together.
It was a bit scary when I had my operation. I got Mum to come in with me and we were both crying and we didn't know what was happening.
Today, the Cowans joined hundreds of other families as they returned to say thank you to staff. Kath Landers, NBN News.
The Jets haven't won in Gosford for more than 3 years, but Labino Haliti was looking to change all that. A win would see the Mariners join Brisbane on top of the A-League, and they were giving Matthew Nash plenty to do. Seconds later, Newcastle's defence was breached. After the break, Matt Simon added to his legacy in the F3 derby. The Jets managed just 1 shot on goal in the second half, while Nash continued to stake his claim for the number 1 jersey, making several crucial saves. Post-match, the coach had more positive things to say about the squadron than his own squad.
Our supporters were extremely passionate, and in some ways more passionate than I thought than maybe the effort that some of our players put out. And I felt very sorry for them.
Graham Arnold couldn't be happier with his side, but was critical of the crowd figure of just over 10,000.
I can't beg enough to the Central Coast public. You know, there's 8,000 free tickets given out to kids.
The Blue Tongue Stadium surface also copped a spray.
A sensational performance on a difficult pitch. Disappointed with the pitch, I have to say.
We've suffered in the last few years with a number of our elite competitors moving to Queensland and to some of our local clubs, and we see the need to rebuild.
It doesn't matter where you live if you've got the focus and the dedication and the commitment to training. It's not about the location, it's basically your own level of personal commitment and your desire to succeed.
The rain is as relentless as the police resolve to catch one of Australia's most wanted men.
We're putting all resources we can at the moment to attempt to locate him and arrest him as quickly as possible.
Malcolm Naden is wanted over the murder of one of his cousins and the disappearance of another. Last Wednesday, police came within sight of the 38-year-old at a remote campsite near Nowandock.
Obviously, to have actually come into almost contact with him is the closest that we've been.
But Naden was one step ahead, shooting an officer before they could make a move. Now more than 60 specialist police are on the case.
Certainly using the scene where the shooting occurred a few days ago and looking at areas where there may be paths or trails to see what might have been an exit route that he may have used.
Overnight came fingerprint confirmation that the campsite where the officer was shot was in fact home to Naden.
Until this stage we hadn't had positive identification that it was Malcolm Naden. That's very good for us to confirm that that was a campsite that he had used.
Bad weather is hampering the use of heat sensing technology and an airborne perspective, but police aren't giving up.
The reward shows that we're really serious about trying to get information from members of the community as well.
Kath Landers, NBN News. Retail isn't the only sector seeing a pre-Christmas rush. With the state government's stamp duty exemption on existing homes for first home buyers set to end on December 31, there's been an influx of purchases.
For the last 6 to 8 weeks, we've seen an increase in the number of first home buyers coming into the marketplace.
With most new entrants looking in the vicinity of $250,000 to $350,000, the stamp duty waiver is worth $7,000 to $11,000. The rush to make the saving has seen homes snapped up more quickly, but not necessarily at a premium price.
With the lack of supply at the moment, it's probably pushed prices up a little bit over the last month or so, although not significantly.
Stamp duty concessions will continue for new homes, but it's an option many first home buyers balk at.
Most new homes these days tend to start from around that $400,000 mark around the region, and that's difficult for a lot of first home buyers to get to.
But I think as long as interest rates stay down where they are, and as long as employment keeps going the way it is in the Hunter, things will pick up for the younger people.
Not everyone's discouraged, however, with the Hunter bucking both state and national trends for new home construction.
If we look at the statistics from January to the end of September, we've had a 12% increase in the number of building approvals throughout the Hunter.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
While it may not look like summer right now, the Hunter Melanoma Foundation isn't waiting for the hot weather to hit. Today it launched its summer awareness campaign at Nobby's Beach. This year it's targeting teens who are not getting the slip, slop, slap message.
It's an extension of last year's campaign, our Don't Get Cut campaign, targeting young people 13 to 18.
The foundation's newest recruit, a local teenager who had a cancerous mole removed when he was 15. Daniel Martin now wants to encourage his peers to protect themselves from the sun.
It's not just an old people disease, and be sun aware and sun safe when you're out in the sun and it's causing you damage.
Coming from a long line of lifesavers, enjoying the outdoors is in Daniel's blood, and he says his experience hasn't deterred him from doing what he loves.
I always wear sunnies, hat, sunscreen, zinc and protective clothing, and I try and stay out of the sun whenever possible.
It is always a difficult message to get across, and the sun safety message is good in the primary schools, and then they seem to lose that message when they get to high school.
This year, the campaign is being taken to a whole new level, including a Facebook competition and a pack for students to take home. Diana Bushby, NBN News.
Check out these lucky ducks, handpicked by school principals to be part of Chuck Duck's first Christmas bash.
We've got gifts for them, we've got hampers for them, and our sponsors have all tipped in to make this possible.
The charitable fund runs a number of programs for children, but this was something extra special. There was festive fare for all and visits from special guests, including, of course, the jolly man of the moment. The excitement building for good reason.
Because we're going to get presents. Getting presents.
And they did, each of the 100 party guests treated to an early Christmas surprise.
Merry Christmas!
The seasonal spirit was also in full swing last night at Spears Point Park. Afternoon storms calming to make for a serene scene on Lake Macquarie for the annual Carols by Candlelight. The unsettled weather kept numbers down, but the thousands who did brave the conditions lapped up Christmas classics. Local lads Luke and Joel were among the highlights, performing their own Christmas song.
The mood at training this morning was positive, but the Jets' performance against the Mariners was anything but.
That wasn't us as far as what we're trying to achieve this year, and the performance-wise was a step backwards, and we were building in the right direction from the Brisbane game through into the Adelaide game.
Ahead of today's run, Gary Van Egmond had a good talk to his squad about its away record. Saturday's loss takes the Jets' winless streak on the road to 9.
What we're looking for is obviously a response straight away, and that comes this week against Sydney. But again, it's one of which we need to be making a response every week.
Someone who is responding is goalkeeper Matthew Nash, given the gloves ahead of the returning Ben Kennedy.
It was good to get the nod. BK's been playing well all year, so to keep him out would be good.
Van Egmond says Nash is a serious contender to be #1 keeper.
I thought he did well. There was a couple of times he diffused things, and if it wasn't for him, maybe the score could have really blown out.
At home against Sydney this week, Van Egmond's now sweating on the fitness of injured defender Nikolai Topper-Stanley.
We just have to ensure that he's 100% right. He's got a bit of an issue with his hammy really high up, so we'll just wait and see.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
gets the contact. Damian Martin made sure it was no three-point basket as he just volleyball slammed it.
We were just going off. It was fantastic. Could hardly sit still. You know, it was that tense.
A key coalition election promise, the audit was designed to look at the allocation of police resources across New South Wales. Mike Gallagher believing the northern region was being left drastically understaffed.
In the Parsons report, it identifies this deficiency between metropolitan, country and regional policing numbers.
Yesterday, the report's 22 recommendations were released. Among them, the need for all local area commands to be staffed at a minimum of 90% of their operational capacity. Currently, Port Stephens, Lake Macquarie and Newcastle are operating at between 76 and 81%. 58 new recruits are being sent to the region this Friday.
Trying to get the numbers up from 80% to 90%, and clearly we'd like to get it higher than that.
We'd ask for not only new recruits, but to fix the problems up this way, we'd also need a mixture of senior and more experienced police in this area.
The Police Association has long claimed a disparity in regional and metropolitan staffing levels. It believes the extent of the problem would be revealed if the findings of the Parsons report were released.
Well, I think they definitely would confirm those suspicions.
I believe that what needs to happen at this stage is that there is a release of the recommendations and an overview of the report, and I feel that that's sufficient.
We'll be calling for the full report to be released to the police and the community so that we can see what data was used to come up with the recommendations.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
I'm calling on the O'Farrell government to suspend all exploration licences for coal seam gas.
A dramatic turnaround for the party which approved AGL's exploration licence covering much of the Hunter.
We were wrong.
and I'm very, very happy with our backflip.
Today, the Labor contingent met with concerned residents in Hunter wine country to discuss an issue causing concern across the region.
What we need to do before coal seam gas is allowed to expand is make sure that the science is right, ensure that we're not compromising our groundwater and our water aquifers.
It has huge environmental impacts, social impacts, health impacts and human rights.
Locals aren't just worried about the environmental impacts of coal seam gas exploration, they're also concerned about what it will do to this picturesque tourist destination.
If you can just picture sitting here looking out at a coal seam gas well, it'll just about destroy the tourism industry of the Hunter Valley.
The opposition's tune may have changed, but it's not closed the door on the topic.
I still think there is a potential future for coal seam gas, and I think there might be an industry there, but let's wait for the science.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
We estimate there's probably $200,000 worth of toys that we have to have available, yeah. So it's a lot of toys.
We've found in the last 6 to 8 weeks people have been getting large bills for electricity and for gas. Everything's gone up. It's really hard for people to be able to manage.
"40 years in a classroom may sound like a life sentence to some, but not to Patrick Beisler.
Very mixed emotions, Tyson, I can tell you. Yeah, there's a little sadness just starting to creep in now because I know these are the last days. I taught my last class earlier today, in fact.
It's a sorry day, not only for our diocese and our school, but for education more broadly, when we lose someone with the gifts that man has been able to bring to education.
It's a career which began way back in 1971 and has seen Mr. Beisler teach at 7 schools. The thing that keeps him going?
I think it was probably more than anything, I love kids. And that's where it's all got to be. You got to love kids.
By the looks of things behind you, they love you as well?
Oh, no doubt about that. I think they might want to be on camera as well, but certainly that's all a part of it. Yeah, you got to love it. And if you don't love kids, well, you can't handle them like this.
As for what lies ahead...
I just want to relax next year. I just want to have a break.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Now in its 3rd year, the Hunter Track Classic has become one of the most important and enjoyable events on the Australian athletics calendar.
I haven't competed at the Hunter Track Classic yet. This will be my first one. But people tend to get really excited about it. It's in our hometown.
I still rate it as one of the best competitions I've been in so far, just the atmosphere.
The Hunter's own Ben Harradine will take part for the first time. He's excited about plans for more fan participation.
We perform at our best when you've got, the slow claps and the yelling at us and that sort of stuff. Well, I do anyway, and I'm really going to be encouraging that on the night, just get people in there and make a lot of noise and try and get us over the line.
In an Australian first, Harradine will throw against women's world champion Danny Samuels. The men's Commonwealth gold medalist is currently recovering from a quad tear, but still planning to put on a show.
Well, Danny is world champion, so I wouldn't be too upset if I did get beaten by her. But, you know, look, I'm just going to go out there and see if I can create a bit of fuss and put a bit of pressure on her.
East Maitland's Laura Whaler is also looking to increase her fitness in the lead up to the event following an injury-interrupted 2011.
That's just the way it goes. We train so hard and our bodies cop a lot. So I'm just out to obviously get my body strong again and mentally and physically be prepared for a season.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Newcastle's no stranger to the hype of the National Ironman Series. It was most recently held here in 2007, but the Junior Classic is something new.
It is an event for young kids under 17-year-olds to have their chance to compete on the big stage with the biggest athletes in the world.
Athletes like world champion Shannon Eckstein and Swansea Belmont's Nikki Chapman, who'll become the Hunters' first representative in 2 decades when the series starts on Sunday. Now promoting the series, former Ironman Guy Leach says Newcastle has been chosen as one of just 2 locations to host a Junior Classic event in 2012, the other being Noosa. The finals will be held in between the Open Women's and Men's events on Sunday, January 22.
So they'll be here on the beach with all the crowd set up in the same sort of format as the Open professional athletes, and it's a great pathway for them.
It's certainly got local athletes Renee Gregory and Daniel Collins excited.
It's a good stepping stone for when you're older, because you're getting amongst that sort of competition already.
It's pretty exciting to compete at a local beach and be able to see the good competitors compete also.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. More than 3,000 residents contributed to Lake Macquarie Council's 6-month consultation period, apparently giving the green light for the average 9.8% hike over the next 7 years.
And we've got a strong level of support from the community to go with option 3. So that results in an average increase of $1.56 per week for the average resident in Lake Macquarie.
Small change according to council, but not everyone's convinced.
I'm a pensioner. Why would I be happy about a rate total? I'm flat out living now.
Businesses are on the brink of a 13% annual rate hike, a figure many feel will be crippling.
I haven't heard one person say they'd be happy about it. Why would you be happy about it? If we're going to pay more money, for what?
What the community will see is an upgrade to the swimming pools over the next 7 years. And they'll see a significant improvement in roads, as well as a new library at Glendale, redevelopment of the library at Morisset.
I am impressed with Spears Point Park, and I can see that those facilities have been improved.
72% of those who responded to Council's survey on the issue said they supported a rate hike above the 3% pegged increase, and 50% opted for the most costly option.
If they've had consultation with people in the community, then I would have loved to possibly be part of that.
Council will vote tomorrow night on whether to ask IPART to approve the special rate variation. Kath Landers, NBN News. These teens are giving something back to society. We can't show you their faces because they're juvenile offenders. This program is their last chance to stay out of jail.
This is my second time through, and it'd be better off I just don't come back at all.
The Graffiti Hotspot initiative has been running for more than a decade, making young offenders undo their damage.
I've had my fence kicked in about 16, 17 times, graffiti about the same amount of times.
It provides young offenders with the opportunity to actually go and clean up the vandalism that either they or their comrades have been responsible for.
But it's not just about punishment, it's also about productivity.
I feel like I've actually helped someone for once. I'm actually helping people. So I got my first aid certificate the other day, and that's something that I never thought I'd get.
The program's designed to help the community and teach young offenders a lesson, but it also saves the government the significant cost of keeping juveniles behind bars.
Earlier this year we tried to pass legislation that was going to make this mandatory, but unfortunately it was blocked by the Labor Party, so I certainly call on our local Labor members to support this legislation the second time round.
Kath Landers, NBN News. Defender Nikolai Topper-Stanley was a notable absence at training this morning, coach Gary Van Egmond ruling him out early ahead of Saturday's clash with Sydney FC.
He's got some tendinitis high up where the hammy inserts into the buttocks area, so he won't play this weekend.
It's not a major concern for Van Egmond, who's got great faith in the new combination of Taylor Regan and Tiago Calvano.
He's been the backbone for a while for the team, but again, it gives an opportunity with Taylor to come in, and Taylor Regan was doing extremely well. So we're not going to lose anything with Taylor coming in.
There could also be a change in the starting 11 up front, with the coach indicating Francis Jeffers will run on ahead of Labano Haliti.
Labano's been leading the line well, but he's been working hard, but I just want to have more of a threat. And I thought when Francis came on against Central Coast, he made some good runs, and being at home, I feel that probably Francis will give us that this week.
The Jets have put that loss against the Central Coast. They're 9th on the road behind them, now looking ahead to the Sky Blues.
They're probably reasonably similar to us, where they've had some fantastic performances and then some that are not so consistent.
The odds are stacked against the home side. The Jets have won just 3 of their past 20 games against FC. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. The sweet sound of success. Jacob Neal's performance of the aptly titled Celebration saw him top the state in Music 2 and Music Extension.
It's very competitive, a lot of classical people, and it was a real honour being a jazz piano player, being able to get an award like that.
The Hunter School of Performing Arts student is now sweating on word from the 3 conservatoriums of music he's applied to, while friends since Year 7, Jacqueline Crinder and Jessica McGuinness, are in good company, each topping the state in their favourite subject. Budding law student Jacqueline in legal studies.
I think I only lost a mark on multiple choice, which is good because I'm not very good at multiple choice. And yeah, I was really, really pleased.
And Jessica in hospitality.
I thought that I'd done well, but it was just really good to see that all the hard work had paid off.
The students were officially honoured at a ceremony in Sydney yesterday.
It was very formal and very exciting to meet the minister as well.
The celebrations were less formal today at St Francis Xavier High, where exam results dominated discussions.
I'm quite relieved, actually. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous about tomorrow though. I was really happy. I actually cried. My mum cried as well. It was good.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
The moment the drama ends, officers lay in wait as an allegedly carjacked BMW speeds down Wallenby Road in Hunter Wine Country. It swerves around road spikes but straight into another police trap. The car is rammed into a ditch. Officers with guns drawn swarm the vehicle. The 24-year-old female passenger is dragged outside. A 25-year-old male is removed and cuffed moments later. The drama began 2 hours earlier when a Ford Falcon, allegedly stolen, was spotted on the F3 on the Central Coast. It then crossed onto the wrong side of the freeway during the subsequent pursuit before being dumped at Beresfield, where police say a BMW was carjacked at gunpoint. The chase then continued up to Maitland, out to Cessnock and through the valley to Broke.
It ran from Tuggerah up through the Central Hunter up to the Hunter Valley LAC, so there was a large amount of police vehicles and resources deployed along with Polair.
Given the pursuit covered more than 100 kilometres, senior police say they're pleased with the manner in which it was handled.
The vehicle was followed to Broke, where in a safe environment the vehicle was subject of spikes deployed by police.
Very happy, nobody was injured, no police and the offenders were not injured, nor were the people that lost their vehicle.
The man and woman were taken to Cessnock Police Station. Kath Landers, NBN News.
You just know it's Christmas when this pair is roaming the halls of a hospital. Don't worry, boys and girls, Santa and Mrs. Claus weren't there for a checkup, but to brighten some faces. And it certainly was all smiles at the annual Children's Hospital Christmas party.
I guess for a lot of them, they've been in hospital for a while. Some of them have been in here for months, so it's a chance to celebrate and forget while they're in hospital.
Sean from Short Stack got the party started in the Starlight Room. Before some of Newcastle's sports stars worked on their bedside manners. Some of these children have spent months in hospital and some will unfortunately spend Christmas in these beds too. Today was a rare chance to forget their troubles for a moment. Max Caparero is one of the lucky ones. The cheeky 5-year-old will get to go home just before Santa comes. Today's visit a welcome distraction until then.
Keeps our sanity as well around here, so yeah, keeps him happy, distracts him from what's going on as well.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Back on Broadmeadow Racetrack for the first time in 2 months.
We had 6 horses go round, some senior jockeys, Robert Thompson, Andrew Gibbons, and they gave it a tick.
That's welcome news for Newcastle Jockey Club, which came under fire over the safety of the track. It was forced to close and lay 20,000 square metres of new turf. The club subsequently lost millions in revenue.
We were confident that we would get this result, but you just don't know until the horses go round.
The state's chief steward making just one recommendation.
I think we're better starting with the rail right in, and we'll run the trials with the rail in the true.
He was pleased with what he saw, and the other side of the equation was, of course, the feedback from the jockeys.
Yeah, very good. It's always a bit of a worry when you the grass hasn't been laid for too long. There's a lot of tracks that have been down longer than this and haven't knitted, but yeah, fantastic.
We've had an abnormal amount of rain for this time of year, so it would be genuine slow anyway, but they seem to be keeping their footing on the track and hardly any marks on the surface.
The track's been given the green light to hold 2 barrier trials on Monday, and they will be the final test to determine whether or not the Boxing Day races will go ahead. But early on, it seems promising. And at this stage, does it look like Boxing Day races will go ahead?
Yep, Boxing Day, I think we can be very, very confident that it'll proceed.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.